All right, so the next step in the racing the 2015 Polairs RZR saga. So I did the last race, which was April 13th, something like that, 2024. About 100 and so miles, 4 laps of 40-mile course about. And from the beginning of the race, the vehicle felt odd. It felt like there was something wrong with the rear. I assumed it was like an engine mount or something. It was giving me wheel hop at times. It didn't get any better throughout the race, but I learned how to drive around it. It liked very smooth throttle input. If you even got a little bit greedy with the throttle, it would let you know. And it just didn't feel all that right. And then I developed another exhaust leak by the end of the race. And I developed this exhaust leak on this new pipe in the same exact spot, which is right here on the bottom tube in between where it curves. About the same spot I developed it on the last one. Let's see if I can see it. Let's see, where is it at? Yeah, right in the same, pretty much the same spot. Well, kind of around, I guess it's on the other side, but bottom tube again. So I imagine that's a stress point on that exhaust because the header pipe attaches to the engine, the muffler itself attaches pretty much to the chassis. So when that motor flexes, and I did notice that it was flexing a lot. When I was standing outside the vehicle and somebody else drove it, I noticed it flexed a lot. So after that race, I pretty much figure, okay, my motor mount, something's wrong with the motor mount. Maybe it's not the rubber part, maybe there's a crack in one, I just can't see it. So I ordered all new motor mounts and a trans mount. Now, in order to change them out, you have to drop the plastic skid plate, which I haven't done since I zip tied it up a couple races ago. So I dropped the skid plate and I got under there and I started looking. And one of the things I noticed when I was ordering the motor mounts is if you go to the parts diagram and you go to engine mounting, it shows this block that has 2 bolts in one direction, 2 bolts in the other. And I was like, I'm gonna check that as well when I get the chance. And so what I did was, I dropped the skid plate and I started looking around. And then there's this other plate too that kind of connects the motor and the trans. Now, this block here that you can see should have 2 bolts in the top and 2 bolts in the bottom. And you can see there's one in the bottom that is missing, the 2 bolts that attach it to the transmission. And it's very shiny right here where it's pretty much been rubbing. So that is part of my problem, is that I'm missing that bolt. There's also, you can see the plate, the motor plate that's kind of behind there. There's a bolt that runs kind of this way, that goes in behind the clutch cover area. And you can't really see it from here, but that bolt is missing as well. And I don't know how that bolt came out because it doesn't look, when you're under the car, it does not look like it should be able to slide out because the clutch, it looks like it would stop at some point and be captured, but it did. So those 2 bolts missing are my engine twisting problem, which is when the exhaust gets hot, is causing it to move. Not the engine mounts. I'm gonna replace all the engine mounts at the bottom anyway. Might as well replace them. But I'm not gonna do that right now. Or I mean, I guess I could do it now since I got everything disassembled. But it's not that hard to take the rear muffler off to change that out. But my main concern is I've got to get the exhaust fixed so it doesn't keep, so I don't have this exhaust leak. This car is actually going to, I don't know if you can see, but it is wrapped in a Sylvania wrap. It's going to the Bob 500, not to race, but to be in a booth. And so I really don't need it to drive perfectly right now. I just need to move it on the trailer, off the trailer, get it aligned in the booth. So I'm not really too worried about it. I've ordered the bolts and the washers and stuff, and I'll replace it when I get them. But yeah, that's another, I'm trying to document the all the things that I keep finding. The other thing I've done is order a helper or tender spring kit. So I ordered the 4 springs from All Things UTV, and I'm gonna replace all the tender springs when I get a chance, and it should give it a little bit of a lift, which would be nice. Right now, again, I don't really need it. I was hoping maybe to do some pre-running in Baja, because I am racing in the Baja 500, but it's in a different car, in a different category. But unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna be, unless I can get those bolts installed, at least one of them, I would think. I don't really see that I'm gonna be doing. Oh, and then the other thing is where that bolt goes in from the side, it looks like there's like a little ear that has broken off. So I'm gonna have to figure out with like making like a plate or something that can kind of go on there of how I'm gonna fix that. So that's gonna be another challenge down the road. But that does show me that that's why it's moving around a bit. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just changing the mounts out. And so, yeah, when I get that all figured out. So anyway, what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to weld this crack up. I think I could get to it pretty easily with my MIG welder and get a good, it looks like there's a crack here, and there's a crack going back, and then a crack over here. So I should be able to get to those and at least, you know, get some tacks on there so I can weld it back up and stick it back in. And then hopefully it won't leak. So yeah, there you go. That's it for now. So yeah, it turns out there were cracks all over this thing. So I got the main one, which was here, and then there's another one down here. And then there was one little one there. And then I welded up 2 spots that looks like the heat shields rub on. So yeah, it was much more than I expected. And yeah, we'll see. I gotta put the heat shields back on, and then I'm gonna throw it back in, and might do the engine mounts before I do that. So the Polairs exhaust has heat shields on it that have these clamps that they're like one-time use, because they got these little like clasps, and you bend them apart to get the clamp off. And yeah, I mean, you're gonna try to put that back, you're not gonna get it that tight. So my suggestion, what I'm gonna try, or what I did try, which we're gonna see if it works, is safety wire. Safety wire pliers. I used to work on F-18 engines, and we would put heat shields on things, and we would put them on with safety wire. And I figure if it's good enough for a supersonic jet like the F-18, it's good enough for some Polaris RZR heat shields. So just did like an arm's length strand just to have enough, and then I wrapped it twice in all the spots. I think there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots. Oh, 7. And then yeah, tightened it with the safety wire pliers, and then bent it so that you don't poke yourself with the tail. And I'm gonna go with that. So yeah, there you go. All right, so I welded it up as you saw before in the video, and I put the heat shields back on with the safety wire, new gasket, torqued the bolts, fired it up, no leaks. I also I changed out the transmission mount that's behind here while I was there, and then both engine mounts on both sides. We'll see how those hold up. I didn't have any, in inspecting the old ones, these are the old ones here, they seem fine. So it definitely is the fact that those bolts are missing. Funny thing is when I went online to kind of like research around, a bunch of people were talking about online how the aluminum had cracked on them and like sheared. And some of them had sheared bolts, but I didn't have a problem with that. And mine was more the bolts bolting the engine and the transmission together. So yeah, let me see if I can find them. We'll see, I don't know. But yeah, got all that back in, and we'll see how I also went over the bolts and tried like tightening, because maybe I thought they were loose, And you can definitely like, they weren't loose, but you can definitely, if you lift, when I was doing the mounts and you were lifting the engine and the transmission up and down, like you can see it pivot. So it needs both bolts in there, at least on this one side here. So it doesn't pivot. And then that other bolt, you know, I don't know. I think you got to take the whole clutch and everything off to get to that bolt. So that's a project in itself. Unfortunately, it's not easy to get to, but we'll see. Yeah, stay tuned.